The moment the sun's first rays touched the stone buildings of the Vatican, history was already in the making. St. Peter's Square, typically filled with the noise and rush of tourists, felt different that morning. The air was thick with anticipation. The usual hustle and bustle had paused, as if the entire city was holding its breath, waiting for something monumental to happen. The faithful stood in a sea of faces, their eyes fixed on the grand balcony above. Hope, uncertainty and excitement filled the air as they awaited the appearance of the new pope, their hearts pounding with a sense of wonder and possibility. This wasn't just any papal inauguration, it was the beginning of a new chapter. One that would rewrite history. Pope Louis I, the first Asian pontiff, had emerged. His arrival marked a symbolic break from centuries of tradition, ushering in an era that many had thought impossible. A pope from the Philippines, from the East, was now leading the world's largest Christian community. The crowd's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. A wave of emotion surged through the thousands gathered, faces brightened with joy, eyes filled with tears of happiness. As Louis I, the former Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, raised his hand to bless the crowd, the moment felt like a serene pause in time, a connection between him and the faithful that transcended the grandeur of the ceremony. Louis I's simple gesture was profound. His warm smile and the quiet strength in his eyes told a story of deep faith, compassion, and leadership. But even as the world celebrated, a secret simmered beneath the surface, a hidden pact that could change everything. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the morning sky, they seemed to herald not just the beginning of a new day, but the beginning of a new era for the Catholic Church. For centuries, the papacy had remained firmly rooted in the West, steeped in tradition, history, and rituals. But now, as the world watched, the Vatican had taken an unprecedented step. The election of Louis III was not just a change of the person at the head of the Church. It was a sign of something deeper, something transformative. Behind the ceremony, whispers of a pact, negotiated in the shadowy halls of the Vatican, began to spread. There were rumors of agreements between the Church and powerful religious leaders from the East, of strategies to unify the world's major faiths, to bridge divides, and heal wounds that had persisted for centuries. These rumors sparked both excitement and fear. The stakes were higher than ever. If the rumors were true, the path forward for the Catholic Church was uncertain. Would the agreement bring about unity, or would it divide the faithful? Only time would tell, but the whispers could not be ignored. Luis Antonio Tagle's background made him the perfect choice to bridge the gap between East and West. Born in Manila, Tagle grew up immersed in the rich Catholic traditions of the Philippines. From a young age, he displayed not only intelligence, but also a deep empathy and compassion for others. As he advanced through the ranks of the Church, his commitment to social justice and advocacy for the marginalized became clear. He spoke out against inequality, poverty, and corruption, and his work resonated with people across the globe. In 2011, his appointment as Archbishop of Manila catapulted him onto the world stage. His leadership embodied the dynamism and global reach of the Catholic Church in the 21st century. When Pope Francis elevated him to the College of Cardinals in 2012, many saw it as a sign of things to come, a sign that the Church was preparing for the future. As the world entered a new era, Luis Tagle was seen as a beacon of hope, a leader who could guide the faithful through uncertain times. The death of Pope Francis marked the end of an era, but it also set the stage for the next phase of the Church's journey. The world watched as cardinals from across the globe gathered for the conclave to select a new pope. After days of deliberation, the smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel's chimney, first black, then white. The news spread like wildfire across the world. The impossible had happened. The Catholic Church had elected an Asian pope. The world was stunned. As Luis Tagle stepped out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, taking the name Pope Louis I, the crowd erupted in joy. It was a moment that shattered centuries of tradition. A pope from the East, a pope who represented the future, had been chosen to lead the Catholic Church. The weight of history hung heavy on his shoulders. His election was not just a personal triumph. It was a symbol of change, of the Church's willingness to embrace the future and move beyond its historical boundaries. But even as the world celebrated, there were those within the Vatican who were already speculating about the true nature of the conclave. Whispers of a secret agreement began to circulate, an agreement that extended far beyond the election of a new pope. Some spoke of a pact between the Vatican and powerful religious leaders from the East. Others hinted at a broader strategy to unify the world's faiths under a single banner, a move that could change the face of global religion forever. The details of this supposed pact remained a mystery, but the rumors continued to swirl. What was clear, however, was that Pope Louis XI's leadership would not be business as usual. His background and experiences made him a unique figure, a natural bridge between East and West. He was fluent in multiple languages, including Mandarin and Arabic, and had traveled extensively throughout Asia and Africa. His election raised hopes that the Vatican would take a more inclusive, collaborative approach to interfaith dialogue. Many saw in him the possibility of greater cooperation between religions to address shared global challenges such as poverty, climate change, and religious extremism. But what of the secret meetings he had held during his first days in office? Pope Louis XIII had met privately with ambassadors from several nations, including China and Russia. He had also dispatched envoys to religious leaders in India and the Middle East. What were these meetings about? What promises had been made behind closed doors? The world waited, but the Pope remained silent, leaving everyone to wonder what his true intentions were. The reactions to his papacy were mixed. In his home country of the Philippines, there was jubilation. The streets were filled with celebrations, traditional music, and colorful parades. The election of Pope Louis XIII was seen as a proud moment for Filipinos, a testament to the global influence of their faith. Across Asia, the news was met with excitement. Many hoped that Louis XIV's papacy would bring more representation for their cultures and traditions within the Church. They dreamed of a future where the Vatican might even consider moving its headquarters eastward, closer to the heart of the world's fastest-growing Catholic population. Elsewhere in the world, reactions were more cautious. Some Catholic leaders expressed cautious optimism, believing that Louis I's leadership could bring about much-needed renewal within the Church. But others were concerned about his progressive views on social issues. Debates erupted over what his election meant for the future direction of the Church. Would Pope Louis XII's papacy be one of unity, or would it spark division? Louis XIII inherited a church in crisis. For centuries, the Catholic Church had been the cornerstone of religious life for millions of people, but it was now at a crossroads. In many parts of the world, secularism was on the rise. Meanwhile, religious extremism continued to threaten global peace. The Church found itself needing to address both the decline of religious belief in the West and the rise of radical ideologies elsewhere. Additionally, the Church was still reeling from a series of scandals and internal divisions that had eroded its moral authority. These scandals had shaken the faith of many believers, and Pope Louis XIII faced the daunting task of restoring trust and credibility to an institution that had been battered by controversy. In his first public address as Pope, Louis XIII spoke directly to the heart of these issues. He called for the Church to rediscover its purpose in the modern world, to adapt to the times while staying true to its core values. He emphasized the need for a renewed focus on evangelization, particularly among young people who were increasingly disillusioned with organized religion. Louis XIV saw the youth as the key to the future of the Church, and he believed that the Church's mission had to speak to the concerns of a new generation. But his vision went beyond evangelization. He called for the Church to be a voice for the voiceless, to champion social justice and work toward a more equitable and just world. He emphasized the importance of addressing issues like poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation. For Pope Louis XIV, protecting the planet was a moral imperative, and he called for the Church to take a leading role in promoting sustainable practices and greater stewardship of the earth. The Pope's message was ambitious and far-reaching. It was a call for renewal and reform, a vision of a Church that could bridge the gap between tradition and modernity, that could adapt to the needs of the 21st century without compromising its core beliefs. The journey ahead would not be easy. But with his humility, intelligence, and deep faith, Pope Louis XIV inspired hope that the Church could rise to the challenges of the modern world. In the days following his election, Pope Louis XIV continued to speak in broad terms about his vision for the future. He talked about dialogue, unity, and a return to the Church's core values.